This doesn't change the planet, but it's also influencing the world of work. So, for example, the way we produce things, for example, energy or cars or how we do agriculture, this is really changing. It's not the same, and it's got to do with the green transformation and with the climate crisis. So these two things are really linked together. So they do have an impact on the world of work, and this is why we think that we as career practitioners should be involved in things around climate change and sustainability, because it's not just an environmental issue. And we also think that lots of damage that has been done to the planet, it's because the way our work is organized, the way how we um, produce energy, how we um, do the farming, and so the work is also part of the problem. And we also think that work is a great field where we can change things. So if we change the things how we work, we can help to the planet to regenerate and support sustainability. So that's why we think that really careers and sustainability go really well together. And what can you expect from today's seminar? So at the beginning, we want to look a bit more into what green or sustainable career education is and why we should care about it. Then we give word to our host, Tristram Huli, and he will explain you how, if you want to start with green career education, so what are the different starting points or approaches to green career education. Then we have other guests from Austria, which will show you some practical example from their own country, which is on focusing on supporting youth go into green jobs and also cooperation between different stakeholders, which is also a really important thing. And then we have a little break, and afterwards you will have the opportunity to test or try out some activities for yourself, and then at the very end we will introduce you some further materials. Also, I forgot to mention that this session or this webinar is being recorded, and we want to also uh, present or post the recording of the webinar on our website. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can keep your camera switched off, or otherwise we'll be happy to if you switch it on so we can see your face, so we don't only talk to our screen or to ourselves. Later, after the break, when you will be doing the practical activities, we will divide you into breakout rooms, and these are not recorded, so you can feel free to turn on your cameras and talk to each other. Okay, so a bit more details about the program. So my colleague Lenka will explain you about the project and about activities for green care education. And then Tristram Huli will introduce his model of five-dimensional framework of green career guidance. Then you will hear from the Austrian initiative, which is called Green Jobs for You. Then we have a 15-minute break. And after the break, we will be doing some practical activities, as I said, and you will be divided into the breakout rooms. It's for about an hour, and then we end up with a plenary where we introduce the resource pack and the handbook, which are the results of the Green Career Education project. And I will pass the word to my colleague Lenka, who's gonna introduce the organization to you and also say something about the project and about the green career education.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome at our webinar. I'm Lenka Němcová, and I am career practitioner and learning designer at EKS Prague. And our organization is focused on career guidance and education for more than 20 years. And we work both with teachers and students, but also with adults who are seeking employment after parental leave. And so we know that also the adults are interested in sustainable careers as the young people are. And we have a consistent focus on sustainability over the past 5 years. So that's why we like these opportunities to meet people from all around Europe, to share our ideas and to discuss the practical examples how the green career education can look like. And we are like a hub for innovation in Czech Republic because we are networking across Europe. And we are very proud that we are able to publish different kind of handbooks which serves to career practitioners and methodologies so they can be inspired for their practice. And we permanently try to for systemic changes, both on local and national levels. And today there is the opportunity to meet and discuss our Green Career Education project. So I would like to ask Eva if she can move with presentation. Because, as I already mentioned, I'm a career practitioner and learning designer, but I am also coordinator of the Erasmus Plus cooperation project, which is called Green Career Education. And for us, the idea is simply that career choices needs to be connected with their real impact on the world. And I would like to pass to other slide because before I briefly introduce our project, I would like to start with a simple idea. And hopefully we will see the next slide in a few seconds. But yes, it's this. Thank you, Eva. So the idea is that we spent around 80,000 hours at work in our life, which is more that we spend with our families, with our friends, or by ourselves. So it means that our career choices are not just personal. They have a real impact on society and also on the environment. So if we are thinking about a change, we should focus on our careers. And at the same time, we are facing major global challenges, as Eva mentioned in her introduction, such as climate change and rapid changes in the labor market. And this is why we think that career education becomes very important. And this is also exactly where our Green Career Education project comes in. Next slide, please. And our project is based on the international cooperation with partners from Finland. So maybe there are some colleagues from ABO Academy today with us, and also colleagues from Slovakia, from the environmental organization Živica. And we have also colleagues from Slovenia, from St. Stanislav Institution. And our idea at the beginning was how we can connect the sustainability topics, the climate education, and the career education. So at the beginning, we try to develop the concept of green career education, which we will present to you today. Because we developed a handbook and worksheets which can serve career practitioners directly for their students. And we also developed teachers training. It was a 5 days long program and where we educated around 30 teachers who are now able to work with our materials in their classes, and they also gave us important feedbacks on activities which helps young people think about the future, about their values, and also about how they can create their own career. So we will be very happy to see you at the end of this webinar. So we will be able to introduce you our handbook and worksheets. And with this project at the beginning and through the work, we were really one of our key inspiration has been the work of Tristram Hooley. Uh, so I'm glad and I would like to welcome Tristram Hooley today with us. And Tristram is a professor at is a professor of career education at the University of Derby, and Tristram also writes uh, Adventures in Career Development blog, which I highly recommend. And we are very happy to have Tristram here because he will share with us the ideas about the five-dimensional sustainable career education, and he will introduce us why it's important to connect sustainability and career education together. So welcome Tristram, and floor is yours.
Thank you. Really pleased to be part of this webinar, and let me just try and share my slides. So where are we? There we go. Great. So I've been working with EKS on another project, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. I think Eva's also going to talk about that project later on in a bit more detail. But where we've been looking at career guidance in sort of a broad sense, but I'm going to try and focus in today on careers education and why we need to think about the climate crisis and environmental issues within green careers education. So we produced a handbook, which we'll introduce to you later, but we start that with some quotes here, really, which I'm going to share with you here. So one is about the idea, which comes from the International Labour Organization, about the idea that we've all got to be involved in a transition to a new low carbon, greener economy, and that's going to mean changes for jobs and careers. And then a very powerful quote from David Attenborough, the broadcaster and environmentalist. He says, "Every day that goes by in which we don't do something about it is a day wasted. If we don't act now, it will be too late." And so I suppose I would like people to think about that and think about the fact that in our practice and in our lives, we have some responsibility both to ourselves, to the people around us, and to the future generations in order to make sure that we have a world to live and to career in. And so I think we need to seize this moment and we need to try and do something here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about statistics and so on. Suffice to say that there's lots of evidence which tells us that there is a problem here, that there are major challenges with the environment and particularly with the climate. This chart shows that sort of temperatures are rising and rising in a very worrying way. So what does this mean? Well, it means lots of things. I mean, depending on how hot it gets, it's going to create different kinds of problems. There's almost no amount of warming up of the Earth that's going to be a good thing. But certainly if it warms as much as we think it's likely to, we're going to have very serious consequences. So that might be reduced crop yields, increased flooding, extreme weather, poorer health, and then growing global migration, which are more flashpoints for global conflicts. And I think it will be very difficult to look at the world in 2026 and say this is stuff for the future. This is all stuff that's happening now, and it's also stuff that's going to make a difference to the way in which our lives and our work and so on go. So we need to bear these things in mind, I think. Now, public policy is trying to respond to this. So I suppose the first point here is that climate change in and of itself will shift how our careers work, but the attempt to respond to it will also shift the way our lives and work operate. So in Europe, we have the European Green Deal, which is trying to cut emissions by 50%. And that is going to drive an awful lot of changes. And we're already seeing within European policy attempts to create new kinds of industry, new kinds of ways of operating, and so on. All of these things have implications for our lives, our jobs, our work. And I think the other thing that we would say is that it's important that these changes are done in such a way that they're economically sound and socially fair. So this all leads to the fact that when we're seeing these kinds of policies, much of the time they're trying to shift the labour market. They're trying to shift the kinds of work that people do and make it more sustainable. The problem is the data we have so far, and this is some data from LinkedIn, keep telling us that we're not doing enough and we're not doing enough quickly enough. And I think this creates a really strong rationale for careers education to try and raise these issues with people and try and do something about this. This does, of course, raise the question of what is a green job? And there are probably some things that we typically think about, and we might, I think, very legitimately want to introduce to our students within Green Careers Education or within careers education, things like careers that exist within the recycling industry, within renewable energies. This is the third guy here is insulating a house, or within kind of sustainable forms of agriculture, farming, and so on. So there are these kinds of jobs which are probably what we think of first when we think of green jobs. And the EU classifies jobs across the labour market into three types. So brown, which are sort of actively damaging to the environment, and green, which is the kind of things that I've just suggested, which are sort of actively positive to the environment, and then white jobs, which are not necessarily damaging to the environment. They're largely unaffected by the green labour market transition, but they do need to change. So an example would be, let's say something like nursing. So in healthcare is not fundamentally damaging to the environment. It's not like coal mining, but healthcare is an incredibly sort of wasteful and environmentally damaging sector. Now, what we would argue, I think, is not to stop healthcare, but to make healthcare more environmentally sustainable. So we might see that as the greening of occupations, the greening of sectors. So I think when we're starting to talk about green careers education, we're not just talking about telling people about careers that are these kind of green jobs. That's an important part of it. We should definitely raise people's understanding of these issues. We should definitely raise people's understanding of the jobs that are available within the green sectors. But we also need to help people to think about when they're in work, how might they go about greening their jobs? How might they go about making their jobs more sustainable? And also gaining some kind of an overview and assessment of how environmentally damaging those jobs are. So there's quite a lot to learn here, which I think makes it a good topic for careers education, because it's something which we can really spend some time digging into, learning about, researching, finding out. And it really is helpful, I think, both for people's own careers, but also for their wider understanding of the world. So what we know is that the planet's heating up. We know what's causing the environmental crisis and how to respond to it. That's the good news here. It's not as though this is a mystery. We don't know why the planet's getting hotter. We don't know why there are more sort of problems with agriculture and so on. We know those things. We know what's happening. And we know how to stop it. We've got to stop putting carbon into the atmosphere. And if we're going to do that, that requires a reworking of our economy, of the labour market. And so this environmental crisis is intertwined with our jobs and careers. And we need to help people through careers education to understand that. We need to try and prevent them from panicking and getting into the kind of climate anxiety. I don't feel I have a future. We're all going to burn, that kind of fear that I think lots of young people legitimately have. And instead, to try and focus people on proactive actions within their own life, within the work that they do, within their societies. And so this then is the task of Green Careers Education. So it raises moral questions. And these are things I think that we can really get students thinking about and talking about. Moral questions like, what kind of work should I do and not do? Do I understand the environmental implications of my work? Do I have a responsibility to try and change the environmental impact of my work and my organization? And then skills questions. Do I have the skills to make a positive contribution to the environment? How are my skills going to have to change as my organization and work change? And do I have the skills to influence environmental change within my organization, or perhaps more widely within my society? These are really important questions that I think we need to get people thinking about, and they're absolutely fundamental to having a successful career. I mean, and that's one thing I think we would say repeatedly, is there's nothing that we're going to talk about in Green Careers Education that is not also part of careers education. It's about yourself, how your skills are, what you want to do. It's also about how you interact with the world, influence it, and so on. These are questions that are important to careers education anyway, but the climate crisis gives them a new context. So let's think about Green Careers Education. So first, we've got this idea of green, the concern with environmental sustainability. We've then got this idea of career, so it's addressing learning, work, and life choices. And then education, which we're supporting learning about self, life, and the world. These are our three concepts. We can then put them in together into this concept that we might call Green Career Education. And I think the important thing to emphasize here is not everything that we might do that is Green Career Education will happen in a lesson which is called Green Career Education, or an activity which is called Green Career Education. It might happen in the wider careers program. It might happen in other subjects in school. And of course, many people do most of their learning outside of school. So we might also encourage people to think about these things in their wider life, with their families, in their leisure time, and so on. We've done quite a lot of work of exploring what it's like to implement this kind of green career education. And I think there's basically sort of two strategies that people use. So one is the sort of avert one, where we sit students down and we say, today is a green career education lesson. And we're very, very explicit about that with people. The other one is a more implicit embedding, slipping it in to other lessons, to other points, to discussions about ethics, values, well-being, and so on. And one of the participants in our project described themselves as a green ninja. They were sort of sneaking some of these ideas in. I actually think you need both of these. You need some space where you signal the importance of this issue. You tell people, this is an important issue. We're going to spend some time thinking about it. It's something you should definitely think about. That's the explicit framing. The second thing is we should be dropping it in across things, because it's not separate from the rest of the people's lives. It's not separate from what course you want to do, from what job you want to do. It's not separate from learning about society or learning about science or whatever it might be. These things are all part of it. So we want to sort of also slip these ideas in. So one of the things that you might want to start is, depending on how you organize your career education or whatever program you're involved in, you might want to think about starting with, well, do you have a curriculum, a program, something that you work with, and going through and looking, does it actually address the environment directly in any way? And then starting from the point of view of, is there anything in your existing program where you could make the connection more actively? I think this is a much better place to start than starting by scrapping what you do and developing something new. So let's start with your existing program. Let's find places it connects to issues around environmental sustainability. Let's add some additional content in. And I would say only at that point do you think, do we need some new content? Do we want to replace anything? In our project, we've been working with a colleague called Miriam Dimsitz, who's at VIA University in Denmark. And she's developed this framework, which I've been working with her on. We call it the 5 dimensions for environmentally sustainable career education. And it's a series of learning areas. So this is a way of thinking about what do we cover in careers education? What sort of topics should we discuss? And what we say is the first one is we need to help people to connect their careers with the world. And that's on the level of feeling, the affective dimension. We want to help people to feel what does a good, successful career feel like, and how do they feel their connection with nature? So an example of this in terms of career education might be taking your class outside to discuss careers in a natural setting, looking at the world around you, feeling the environment, being affected by nature. Our second one will be about building solidarity with the world. So this is both a sort of social and an ecological solidarity. So our belief here is that our careers are not entirely individual. We're connected to the people around us. We work in organizations with other people, and those organizations and those people are interdependent with the natural world. So we need to help people to understand their interrelationships with the world, and then to feel some sort of solidarity or responsibility for them. So an example of this as a task would be a task to investigate green careers and their impacts, trying to understand how do green careers operate, what sort of impacts do they have, not only on the individual who's doing them, but on the world around. Our third sort of learning outcome or learning area is to help people to learn about careers in a sustainable world. So this is where we come into some of these things like looking at what different green jobs are there, what different kinds of approaches can people take to green their career, and so on. So an example, and I'll show you this in a bit more detail in a second as an example, it would be an investigative activity looking at companies' greenwashing practices. So this would be analysing companies and analysing places who are potential employers and making a real assessment of their environmental impact, and particularly looking at the ways that perhaps they try and mislead people into thinking they're doing something more positive than they actually are. Our fourth learning dimension is to imagine and invent the world, the transformational capability. We really want people to be able to think about different worlds, think about different possibilities, to imagine a situation in which we're not in a kind of environmental climate crisis. I want them to think forward and have the capacity to imagine both their lives, how they could develop a great career and live a great life, but also what the world might be like that would enable that. So we want this sort of transformational capability. So we might do very basic things like visualization, getting students to, close their eyes, think about the future, think about where they are, think about what kind of environment they're in. How do things smell? How do things taste? And so on. Can they see some green spaces, or are they entirely enclosed in concrete? I mean, thinking about these kinds of things, I think, are very important. And what we're trying to do with that is not simply to, it's not just simply a kind of abstract exercise. What we're trying to do is give people motivation to help them to think about possibilities, and then that allows us to help people to plot their way from here to there. Finally, we want to develop the capacity within people to change the world, to engage in kind of political and organizational forms of transformation. So examples here will be thinking about how citizens and workers can put pressure onto employers and governments to change policies. So learning not just about how can I navigate within the existing system, but also what's my role as somebody who's an actor within that system, who can make things happen, who can change things, and what kind of techniques are there. And we might think of these as sort of advanced career management skills, really. So we want people in these 5 areas, we want people to feel their connection with the world, to feel that they have shared interests with the world, to learn and become knowledgeable about how things work, to be able to imagine alternatives, and to be able to think about how they might change them. And we want them to do these things both in relation to themselves and their individual lives, the organizations within which they might work, and the societies within which they might live. So we want them to be thinking about all of these things. This, if we were going to do it in full, I recognize would be a very substantial curriculum for us to address through career education. We're not saying that you have to do all of this to make it worthwhile. What we're trying to give you is some ideas about some of the ways, some of the issues and ways we might talk to people in order to help them to develop their thinking about some of these issues. So what might an example, very practical activity look like? This is not the most inspired activity. It's one that I developed a while ago. I'm going to talk you through it, but I also want to flag that we have a toolkit in the Exploring Green Guidance project, which has got lots of other careers education activities in it. I think Eve is going to introduce some of those to you, as well as the things that they've developed through the Green Career Education project. So this would be a very simple activity. What I would do is I would start by dividing my students into small groups, and I would give them each a different sector of the economy. So I might give one of them the automotive industry to look at. I might give another one healthcare. I might give another one transport. You can do whatever you want, I think, and also you can follow students' interests if they have interests. So you could divide them by organizing them around sectors that they're interested in. And then I would get them to do some research. So we would have some computers out, maybe have some resources for them to look at. And we would say, okay, write down your sector, make a list of key companies. What are the biggest employers within your sectors? Who are they? What are some of the typical jobs that you might find in this industry? And have a look at some of those. Ideally, we would have some kind of labour market information source for them to research. It's different in each country, so I don't know which is the best for you. But and then you would ask them to think about, how does this sector impact the climate? So what is this sector's impact on the climate? And we might again give them some resources. I've got some resources at the bottom of this slide, which are more kind of critical ones. Now, many of these are either UK or American, so they may not be directly relevant. But the sort of things that I'd use here would be sources like Climate Watch. There's questions about how does how climate change impacts the economy, emissions by sector, these sorts of things. Give them some things to look into. So, is this sector impacting the climate? Is it positive? Is it negative? Could we broadly call this a green sector, or would we call it a brown sector, or would we call it a white sector? And if so, in what ways? And then, how will climate change impact on this sector? So we're thinking like, is this going to be regulated in some way? Is it going to become more difficult to do this? And so let's think of an example. So if we take the automotive industry, I think it would be reasonable to expect that within the automotive industry there will be increasing regulations that make the use of petrol and diesel less likely, and increase the focus on batteries and electric cars. We might also think that within the automotive sector there might be a shift from individualized modes of transport, so cars and so on, towards other kinds of public transport. So we might see more buses, we might see more trains, and so on. So what we would be trying to get these students to do is firstly to make a kind of environmental and almost moral judgment about where does this sector stand in relation to it. But then the second judgment is a more practical judgment about, well, what's going to happen if we look forward? Can we find any examples of what sort of things might happen in this sector? So we get them doing this, we get them doing it. Maybe I think this, is a reasonably long activity. If we were going to try and fit it into an hour's lesson, we probably might want to give different members of the group different of these tasks to do. And then we would get them to present back to the group, ideally, so that they would build some understanding. Now, if we do this sort of task, there's other tasks that could come off it. We could then perhaps have a follow-up lesson the next week or the next day where we say, okay, we looked at this. Which sectors are you individually interested in? How do you think about this? What do you think your responsibilities are in relation to this? And start to raise some of those other issues that we raised in terms of the kind of these learning areas. The point here, I think, is not to tell people you can't work in the coal mining sector or whatever, but to give them a sense of what the issues are and an opportunity to think through how they feel about that and what their responses are. So what we would say is that green career education is not about pushing one job, or it's not about pushing your views. It's not just about individual decisions and actions. We shouldn't ever, I think, just only be discussing the environmental issues. People have to make money, they have to build a life, and so on. And we're not trying to make everyone just into an activist, but equally, we're not just trying to make everyone adapt to the world and just say, well, that's how it is. We're trying to foster this transformative developmental capacity in people. So what should we do? First thing is this should be based on facts, and it should be supporting students to build their own skills of critical analysis rather than imposing a view on them. Help them to understand the situation, but also help them to make their minds up about it. And it should respect students' autonomy and agency. It shouldn't turn into kind of having a go at somebody because they want to do something that you might feel is environmentally destructive. We should be very reflective as teachers in this area about how we're dealing with it and what our own values are and how we're communicating that to students. And then I think we also want to be helping students to gain an understanding about the interconnection between sustainability and social justice and their own lives. So I think we need to recognize that if we're going to do this well, we have to address complicated socioeconomic, environmental, and political topics. Some of these might be difficult and uncomfortable, and that's why it requires a lot of sensitivity to deal with these. We need to think about the future, and we need to recognize that no one knows what's going to happen in the future, but we should be exploring potential scenarios. We should recognize, I think, unequal power relations, all of this stuff where we're starting to talk about employers and what's your role in if you're employed by a company and you don't agree with everything they're doing. That gets us into thinking about powers. It gets us to think about labor relations, industrial relations. Lots of big, really interesting topics, very interesting to careers, not always easy to deal with very quickly. And we need to think about what opportunities exist for students and also what some of the constraints are. If you live in an industry if you live in an area that's dominated by carbon intensive brown industries, then you're probably going to have to engage with it in a different way than if you're in the center of the renewable sector. And I think ultimately we're promoting the well-being of the student. That's one of our aims. But that, I think, also entails considering the common good, social justice, and the well-being of all living things. So I think, to summarize here, the environmental crisis is the defining issue of our time. It's going to have a major impact on our careers. We have to address this in career education. There really isn't a choice. It's not something we can ignore. We have lots of frameworks, tools, and approaches that can support career education in this area, but it remains as an emergent area. So you need to be willing to experiment and develop new approaches, and sometimes recognize that you've tried things that haven't worked, and that's okay. So I'm happy to finish there. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, hopefully something of that's been interesting to you, and thank you for listening.
So thank you very much, Tristram. And those of you who are interested in more, let's say, like academic articles, so Tristram is hopefully going to finally publish this framework together with his colleague Miriam. And I would also recommend to read his blog, where you can read stuff about this. And as Tristram said, we will share later on after the break some of the results of the work that we've done together. And the article has not been approved yet, yeah. So it's our big wish that it's gonna be approved, but
we are waiting still. But yes, hopefully we will publish some of this stuff soon.
And can you tell us where? Where should we look for it?
So I will put a link to the NICEC journal, lots of articles, and there are actually lots of articles already about green guidance which are in there. And I think you're going to share some of the stuff this afternoon that we've done through the Exploring Green Guidance project. But the NICEC journal is a free access journal, so I will also put the link for that in for people.
Brilliant. So any questions towards Tristram before we move to Austria? Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you one question, yeah? So have you tried to introduce this sustainable part into your careers education, and what was the reaction of your students or people that you work with?
Yeah, so I mean, I mainly work with guidance counselors and teachers rather than directly with students. We have done some things with university students, and we also but we've done a lot of things with guidance counselors who have tried these things out. I think there are a number of real challenges here. I mean, I think often people find it quite exciting. It's a way of reinvigorating your practice, your programs, making them feel relevant, and students often respond to them quite well. I think there can be challenges, and one of the challenges which I've tried to sort of talk about here is the complexity of some of these issues. I think if you say, well, careers is just about making a decision between, whether you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a plumber or an electrician, then it's a much easier thing to deal with in 45 minutes than if you start to say, well, actually, in order to really make these decisions, you need to start understanding something about how society works and some of the pressures that are on us. I think that's really challenging, but I think ultimately there's no way to avoid it, because it's a bit of a myth to say, well, you can just look inside yourself and choose what job you want to do. So yeah, I think there are real issues about time. I think there are real issues about resources. I think we're getting much closer now to having good resources that we can give people, which give people really good starting points. And so, yeah, I feel people are finding it interesting and exciting, and it's working so far.
We're running out of time, but I wanted to give you some floor. So Matthias and Marcus, you will have your half an hour, and we will just shorten the break, because I think it's important that people can ask Tristram directly. Yeah. So Ida was first. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Ida from Denmark.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm very inspired. At this moment, I'm one person who are very interested in the green career guidance and career. So I have to learn and develop myself. At the same time, I also need to get my team on board. And I have a feeling that, of course, I have to learn, but at the same time, it can't wait like 6 months till I understand what this is about. So I'm like, how can I structure my own development? Is it the model you just shown, Tristram, or where can I begin for myself, but also to recruit my team to get on board? It's a lot, but also very inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I think one of the things that we keep saying is this is kind of a new area, and it's important to try things out. I think what I tried to suggest in the presentation was, rather than saying I'm going to kind of completely rework everything and do it all in a new way, start with your existing program, start with what you do this kind of audit process where you go through and look at what we're doing. Are we mentioning this? And is there anywhere here where we could be mentioning? So maybe you do a session on different sectors and you're not covering the sort of nature and climate adaptation sector. Well, you could put that in there. And, you know, in other places, maybe you're talking about how to work with your employer and you're not talking about, you know, issues around sustainability there. So I think the first thing is not to do really radical major changes, but is to look at how you can kind of review what you do with a green lens. And I think once you do that, you'll then get more confident, and it will suggest ways to move things forwards. And I mean, as I said, we've got lots of resources that you can use as starting points. So if you're thinking, well, how could I do that? Then there's probably some good things that could inspire you that are real things. And all of the resources that we've developed have been developed by practitioners, so they're very practical, really.
Okay, thanks. I have to move it forward. And just to let you know that we have developed 2 sets of handbooks. One is for career guidance and one is for career education, and just describes the process and how you can incorporate these activities in your whatever kind of career guidance activities you're providing. And it goes like step by step through the whole process. So I suggest that reading this gives you some idea how to change your practice, and then you've got different sets of like working materials or resources or activities that once you understand how this whole thing works, then you can pick up the activities and start to testing them and doing them yourself. Yeah. Okay. So Elena and then Anna, and then we have to give the floor to Matthias and Marcus. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Tristram. Thank you so much for the presentation. I just have a very, very quick question, and if you've already written about this, maybe you can point me to where you have more on this. You mentioned something about justice and students, that we don't want to insist that students accept an unjust world during your presentation. And I'm just wondering if you can say a bit more about that. So I work for Central European University in Vienna, in Austria, and I'm a career advisor. I work with undergraduate and master's students in the humanities and social sciences. So of course, justice is something that it's quite, social justice is something that's quite on their minds. Yeah.
So I mean, I've done quite a bit on career guidance and social justice. I'll give you an article in a second, which I've written on this, which again gives another sort of framework for making this practical, I suppose. I mean, many of the issues are the same as, I mean, in both the sort of social justice stuff that we've done and in the green guidance thing. What we keep coming back to is the idea that in order to talk meaningfully about people's careers, you have to talk about the world around them and how it works. And one of the things that you have to think about is how can you help people to come together with others to change things, and also the idea that there are some competencies involved in actually changing and shifting how things work. And I think that then they become, if you think, well, they're part of the set of career management skills that people need to have, then I think it becomes not so challenging because, yes, we need to know how to transition in the labour market and we need to know how to research labour market information. We also need how to work with others and we need to know how to change things. These are then all career management skills we can develop. So, yeah, I think there's lots of stuff. I'll send a link now to one of the articles that we've written on this that I think is quite helpful. But yeah, there's lots of stuff on this, I think. So yes, hopefully that's a quick
Thank
answer.
you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. And Anna is the last, and then we go to Austria finally.
Thank you. I'm thinking a lot about the word green. You know, green can be a color that you can associate with politics. And in my world, green is an environmental and way of thinking. Tristram, have you thought about another word instead of green to be less politic?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this. I mean, actually, in the article that I've written with Miriam, we avoid that. We sort of talk about this and avoid it, and we talk about environmentally sustainable career guidance. Now, the problem is that apolitical? Probably not, really. It's like whatever term you pick on, there are going to be people who are going to object to it, and there are going to be people who agree with it, and so it's very difficult to escape that. I think green is a very loose term and probably not the best term to use, but it is when we're talking practically and working with practitioners. Green guidance, I think, it gets people to have some sense of what we're talking about a little bit quicker. So yeah, I mean, if we can find a better word, I mean, that's fine. But I think what we try and do is spend some time defining it and being kind of careful about how we use it. And to tell people, you know, this is not just something for people who want to vote for the Green Party in whatever country you're in. You know, I mean, whether you should vote for them or not is another question. But it's like, but I think we can't pretend this work is not political, but it's not party political in that narrow sort of sense. And I think that can be difficult for people, and it can cause some challenges. But we do have to recognise that. I mean, one of the things we talk about in one of the handbooks that we've done is the recognition that our clients and students are going to have a range of different opinions on these issues that they're going to come into the room with. And one of the things we need to do is listen to that and think about how we best respond to it. And we're probably going to respond differently if we've got a class full of, you know, Greta Thunbergs as opposed to a class full of Donald Trumps. And probably we've got a mix in most classes. So we're going to have to try and address that somehow.
True. Thank you.
So thank you, Tristan, very much. I just think that we're using the term green guidance also as a part of tribute to Peter Plant, who was the first one who used this term. And I think that it's really different country to country, and the words have different meanings in different countries. It also depends on the policy. And I would say, as Tristram said, that sometimes sustainability is also the word that should not be used as well as green. So it's really difficult. But we have a positive example from Austria to cheer you up. We welcome here Markus Gruber.
If I'm allowed to, I would chime right into this question before I start my presentation. So first, hello everyone. I'm Markus.
I'm sorry. Can I just introduce you and then I'll pass you the word?
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So Markus is from the Department of Environment and Energy from Lower Austria. So it's, let's say, part of the local government, which is positive that you can see that even the governments can support like green initiatives in some countries. And Matthias Wiene-Wippel, who's from an organization called JUICE, and it's an NGO working with young people. So you can see how well this cross-sectoral cooperation can work. Markus, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eva. So I just wanted to add 2 sentences to this question about the term green. Like, since I'm in the local government, I've direct experience with that topic. Like, even the right-wing party in Lower Austria, which is often offended by green initiatives, they've always been only offended by the word climate change, and so on, but they never criticized the word green or anything. So I would say green is, it seemed like, from my personal experience, it's just perfect. There is no problem with that word in political context, in Austria at least. Okay, but now coming to our project, I'm talking about our project Green Jobs for You, which has been launched in 2021 as a response to the regional climate plan. That is a sustainability strategy by the federal government of Lower Austria, which has the aim of reducing the greenhouse carbon emissions until 2030. As it includes very specific measures, among them creating 10,000 green jobs. And our reasoning was, like, for the project itself, was that many young people care about the environment, they care about climate protection, but they aren't aware about concrete career paths in that area. So we created this easy to use online platform to inform them about the whole topic. So now I'm going to share the screen. Yes, I'm in the comfortable position not to having prepared a PPT presentation as neat as Tristram, but can use directly our website. So okay, actually we have two platforms. It's for adults and for young people. For adults, it has only been added in 2024. This one is targeted at adults who have already established their careers but want to switch jobs to a more meaningful for them. But due to time constraints, today we will only focus on the project for young people. So we categorized the whole topic in those five bubbles. First of all, of course, lays the groundwork, the definition of a green job, but instead of just giving a dry textbook definition, we produced a video, which I won't show now, only for a few seconds, to see that we wanted to. The audio is not too well, I think. Anyway, we just wanted to engage the audience because since we are targeting young people, it wouldn't be very interesting for them to read about what is a green job, like a dictionary definition. And then the next bubble, we listed more than 150 green jobs, presenting the whole range, like from environmental engineers to organic farming. But we do have a focus on technical jobs because there are the numbers. We need the people who can install solar panels, wind turbines, who are proficient in alternative driving, engineering, and so on. So here we have categorized them again in 5 different industries. Let's take this one, for example, and then you just click on this is the title itself, and then you just click on it and you get the information. What is the job about? Where do you find it? Who are you working with? And again, we've produced a lot of videos. Like, as soon as you see one of these icons, you can click on it and watch the video. We have the great icons as well, where we're cooperating with other companies who were willing to give us the permission to show their videos. But to be honest, our videos are of high quality, even if that sounds very arrogant. We prefer those icons. What did and it was important for us because the titles of the jobs sometimes change, or maybe some content, some issue. So we are cooperating with the BIC, which is the online career platform of the Chamber of Commerce. So if anything changes, it automatically gets updated in our list of jobs. So there's always the official title, the official correct title. Okay. The next one. We have listed more than 200 companies, green companies. Here I want to mention our first big challenge is how do you define a green company? Sustainability has become a big buzzword, like on every company's website, you will find the topic sustainability, which often comes back to the topic Tristram also talked about shortly about greenwashing. Are they really green? And to be honest, we still haven't found a final solution. Like, of course, if they are certified in certain, if they have some green certificates, that certainly makes them a green company, or often you just know what they do, especially for electrician companies and so on, that they are indeed green companies, but it's not always easy to filter them out. So right now we have a little bit more than 200 companies. Here we have the function of filtering the city. Our city would be St. Pölten, because this is another thing in Austria, maybe in other countries as well, that when it comes to mobility, like changing, like moving to another city for your job, people are not very willing about that, especially when they have families, then it's quite impossible. But also young people. In Austria, we have, for example, in Austria, we target a lot of not only like high school students, we also have a lot of students who, after secondary, already finish their schooling and start working at a company. It's a kind of, what is it called? A dual education system. So they start working directly at a company and get sent to school annually for 10 weeks. So they have this combination of hands-on training and working at a real workplace. And they finish with 19. And this this system has been frequently highlighted by the European Union as an exemplary model to foster high-skilled labor. But as I said, that started when you're like 15 years old, so it's impossible that you would move to another city for such a job. And we also gave the for the companies, we also started to cooperate with a few companies to do excursions, like where we offered the schools, the teachers, to organize a trip for the classes to go directly to a company, to show them what it means to do a green job, to see people doing it, like getting in touch with other young kids who are doing that job already. But this also has been quite a challenge because, to be honest, we did underestimate the organizational nature of this, like for the teachers. Like for us, it was okay to build a bridge between the companies and the schools, but to get a teacher organize a trip to some company, there are many regulatory hurdles. So this is one of our learnings, which has become way more of a challenge than we expected. Then here we again have a list of about, I think it's about 100 schools and universities, most of them in Lower Austria and in Vienna, because in Lower Austria you won't find so many universities. So here we have included other states in Austria. One of our advantages, I have to say, is that we wanted to approach a lot of schools with our project, and what made it easier is that in my department in the federal government, we have already a network of 200. We call it a sustainable network of schools, and there are more than 200. So we already had a lot of contacts to schools who were interested in such a topic. But it's open. Our workshops were open for all schools in Lower Austria, and there has been a lot of interest. Actually, to be honest, we couldn't cover all the demand there was, which was a good sign that so many schools were interested. But of course, unfortunately, we couldn't cover the whole demand. And this, of course, is also where you need the government backing, that you can even finance all those workshops. About the workshops, I will skip that for the moment because Matthias will talk about it a little bit later, more in depth. I just want to show you the tools we have. Yeah. There it is. So here you can all teachers and other people in the education sector can download directly materials for their schools, for other educational institutes, to talk about the topic of green jobs in an interactive, playful way with the young people. And last but not least, I have to mention our partners, which is the aforementioned BLC, the online career platform of the Chamber of Commerce, and this is the local education authority. EcoPlus is a bridge between our government and the private companies in Lower Austria, then the Chamber of Commerce. And here are all the youth counseling centers that conduct the workshops. And coming back to the workshops, this is the topic of Matthias now. He's from the Youth Counseling Center Choosy, which has done the whole concept, the whole content of the workshops. So he, day in and day out, he talks to young people. So he speaks the language way better than an old white man like me. And I will hand over to him now.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay.
Depends, Eva, how much time I have left. So you have to tell me how much.
Okay, I think that we will a little bit squeeze the break. So instead of 15 minutes, we'll make it 10, and then we shorten the end. So you have, let's say, 12
Okay.
minutes. So there's a floor for questions as well. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I try to keep it
go
short.
ahead.
So also welcome from my side. As Marcus has already mentioned, I'm working in the youth counseling station. I'm supporting young people actually in any topic. They come to my place voluntarily, and it doesn't cost them anything when they come to me, and I support them actually in any topic. But most of the pupils or young people who come to our counseling station are between 10 and 25, and most of them are coming to when they have questions about what opportunities they have in life or concerning their careers, and we support them to find the right ways and paths and what opportunities they have actually, because everybody of us has to deal with the question what work I'm going to do later on, especially the young people, of course. And as Marcus has already mentioned, the federal government of Lower Austria came to our place and asked us if we are interested in creating a workshop concerning green jobs. So actually, that's two main topics which are also part of our daily work because young people are concerned about the environment and have questions about their careers and ask us to support them in finding the right way or the right career. And every child, every youth, every person is different, and so we also start our workshop when it comes to green jobs. So we have to pick up, and every class is different, and we have to pick up the pupils where they're standing. And we concept this, or we created the workshops for pupils between 13 and 15, and also from 16 to 18. So we want to cover up actually a lot of when they're between 13 and 18. So when they really have to decide which which work they're gonna make later on. And we're starting a workshop in a class actually with some easy methods. We have cards which says ja means yes and no means no. And we just ask them some simple questions to get a feeling how is the class, how they are dealing with environmental facts, and which where's the standing of the class actually. For example, easy is do you have a pet? Yes or no? Do you take the bus or the train to come to school? Yes or no? Is it possible for you to not use the phone for one day? Yes or no? Yeah. Who likes to spend time outside? Yes or no? So you can easily, with some main questions, get a feeling about the class and how each person is dealing with topics or standing, or how they're affected by their mentor or not. And that's the first part we start with the workshop. And the second part is, so I like to share my my screen is, and then we ask the classes. Also, I have four specific values concerning the environment. Yeah, and there are four facts, and we have like four sheets, and I read out every sheet loud and put them in the corner of the classrooms. And when I have read them, like I think it's difficult to live environmental friendly, but I would like to do it more often. I haven't thought about environmental protection yet. I live friendly, and I think it has been done enough to combat the climate crisis. And I read out these four values and put them in the corner of the classrooms, and we asked the pupils to stand up and go to the value which they are like affected the most, or which they're referring the most. And that's quite to get a feeling about how is the feeling or the personal standing concerning the environmental issues or values, how you call it, in the classroom, and also to specific pupils. And then you see, and then they they referring to the people, they stand there, and we ask actually almost any pupil, why is this, why are you standing here? what are you doing actually for the environment? And actually, when they're quite young, they're quite quite a lot young people who are standing at the value. I haven't thought about it yet. And that's completely normal, and it also is allowed to be. We just invite them to think about it, and invite them to use the time of the workshop to get inspired, to think about what's actually difficult and what is important about the environment and what is difficult to protect it. That's the first part, to think, also to get a feeling about the class and how they, if they are already have done something or haven't thought about it yet. And the second part, green jobs concern actually the environment and also not the environment, but also work. And we have also the same four values. So we put the values concerning work in the classrooms. And we picked up four values like I want to have a long-term employment, I want to have fun at work, I want to do something meaningful at work, or I want to earn a lot of money. So that we always say, actually, in every job you get, you earn money, but here we mean specific, a lot of money. So when they're quite young, lots of course, young students they positionate, either they're going to the value or term. I want to earn lots of money, but there are also lots of young people who stand at the value. I want to have fun at work. And we also discuss what does a meaningful work mean, or a long time employment. That is that someone who doesn't have to change job every second or every 2, 3 years, or have to look for a new job or get how you say artificial intelligence does the job right now, so I have to quit my job or I have to find the next one. So and at the end of this, we call them, if we green jobs is this was all these values implements that has any of these values also refers to a green job. And then we also work with the homepage. The homepage, which Marcus has already shown you, is also a big part of our workshop. So we also we show them the video. What does a workshop mean? What does a green job means? And how? I see. I will share that again. Okay, wait a sec. So I'll give the so we also work with these 5 bubbles. And for us, it is important because some of them have never heard of green jobs, or there are specific words they have to know or have to think about. For example, sustainability. What is sustainability? What does it mean to preserve resources? And also energy transitions. These 3 main topics, they are really, really important that these pupils have heard of and know what they mean. And we also go through the bubbles, explain them, some specific jobs, for example, show how this homepage is built up, and how they use it later on, so they can actually use it anytime they want to. And after we explained the homepage, the next part is I just showed just very shortly, just have also prepared. We want to that the deal with it with green jobs, and especially when we explain some kind of jobs. So in which bubble does has a lot of jobs. So we picked up some jobs from every bubble and provide a game. We are going to play with the pupils. So just show you which game it is. I think most of you already know this game. And we don't have the time to play it, actually, unfortunately. But uh, it is for me important that you know this. So, for example, I have to provide this. So, yeah, no. It's called Kahoot. So you can see this is yeah. Any person can create an account on Kahoot, and it's a game where you can like enter in questions and the answers, and the pupils are using a digital device like a smartphone, or actually every pupil has a laptop provided from school. So they we picked out specific jobs, and we play this game with them. It says they have to answer the question correctly in as fast as they can, and they get points for any right question. And at the end, there's like I said, the three best players are rewarding or are winning a little prize, actually. Yeah, and it's we we've like put it out jobs which are it's like needed like study university, going to university, and but also jobs work like farmers or foresters where the education is not that long. Yeah. So we picked up lots of different jobs, of course, and asked specific questions about this. And which brings me back to our homepage, which Marcus has already mentioned that we provide this all as all we worked on, and we use in the also in the workshops. We provide everybody with this, so like open source. Let's see. If we go to the menu button, and you see for multiplays. This is for multiplays. That's for you, for teachers actually. Anybody who wants to use it, we provide them with all, for example, with the Kahoot quizzes, with the questions. You can quizzes and games where we have developed, and for example, this Padlet, where we have made learning snacks as at like small questions or small quizzes concerning any bubble, which we have shown you on the green jobs bubbles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 learning snacks, for example. We have created game cards where the pupils in the classes can play games with specific jobs, for example, for memory, or the two others we have, or two other games. And we provide the Kahoot quizzes. And in every class, that's what Tristan mentioned. Don't have to start with a career change, or to think about career. We have to start with values, and that everybody of us can easily change something to protect or to do something good for the environment. So that's also something that's actually the last thing we're discussing or we're talking in classes. It's our environmental tips. It's like using green searching machines like Ecosia. Use your cycle. Use your smartphone as long as possible. Buy environmentally friendly products. Use a lunch break box, for example. Don't wrap it in paper. Just a box which you can wash and use it. Um, this is like also, or if you stream just one thing, don't stream and use your mobile. It's also both at the same time, for example. So simple, or if you use a paper, use both sides. So simply things, so small steps you can easily, that everybody of us can easily use and make something positive to protect the environment. Yes, as you see, we have done a lot. We've created a lot. We have lots of questions. Or like schools or classes, they want to. They ask if you come. Will you come again next year? And work with the next third or fourth, or with the next pupil, or with the next class. And this is quite hard to I see to cover the demand, as Marcus has said. Yeah, it's quite a lot, but we're trying to do our best, and we're still working on it. Yeah. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing all the materials. So as you can see, it's all free. So each of you can access the website. We will also share all the links that you've posted and send it to you, so you have it all in one place together with the presentation. So before we just go for the break, I just want to make some final comments. What I think is really amazing about the Austrian initiative is that you can see that like each Bundesland has its own like climate plan, and in other countries we also see that the cities they have their own climate plans, and then they cooperate with other bodies like youth NGOs or other organizations, so they can together fulfill the climate plan and also support people into green industry. And I think this cross-sectoral cooperation is really, really important. We've been recently to a trip to Denmark, and we've seen such kind of cross-sectoral cooperation supporting the local climate plans. What I also think is important in your presentation is that the kids or students, they have some concrete experience about the green jobs, because they very often have no clue, not just about green jobs, but any kind of jobs, really. So it's good that they can go to an excursion. What I think is also important, if they have some training places, we've seen it in other countries, they could really go and work in a green company, like a job placement. So they can stay there for a longer period. And I will share with you a link to a British education project by the World Wide Fund. And they've developed something similar, but they also had these job placements, which were really, really helpful and interesting. And then what I also mentioned or noticed is that lots of companies do the greenwashing, so it's really difficult to find out whether it's really a green company or not. So I think it's really crucial that we teach the kids or students also critical thinking. When they're looking for a job, they can really like read between the lines, and find out if it's greenwashing or not. And there will be a new EU legislation where a company, if they want to call themselves green, they should really fulfill some norms. But again, we shall see how this works with the practice. And the last thing which I found really important is that you should start what the students or what the people are you work with. So it means that you have to adapt all the time. So it's not like a ready-made thing. All right, so that's been very inspiring. Thank you very much for joining us. And we now have a 10-minute break, so we meet again at 11:40. And then you can try some of the activities that Tristan has already mentioned about the global trends and how they impact our lives and how they impact the world of work and about the future jobs. So please stay with us, those of you who can. And we meet again at 11:40, and we will break into small groups and work together. Okay, so see you in a bit. And Marcus and Matthias, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, so we're back from the break, and what we want to do now, we have 1 hour to try 2 of the activities that we have developed through within our 2 green projects. So you can really try them and test them by yourself. What I want to say is that we don't have much time for these activities, and it's also partly intentional because these activities are meant for students or pupils, and they are not really passionate people. They are not used to discuss and reflect for long periods of time as we adults do. So you need to be really quick and change the tempo and have lots of activities prepared so you can now uh, step into the shoes of your students or pupils and try the activities for yourself. And what I mean to say that you will probably feel that you don't have enough time for these activities, but it doesn't matter. We want to just show you how it works and get some practical experience. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the first one, the first activity is about the global trends that are shaping our future and also the life on the planet and has also impact on the world of work. And Tristan has already mentioned some of these in the presentation. So one of them is, for example, the climate change, the heat, the transition to renewable resources of energy or the green transition. There's the digital transformation, yeah, the massive growth of AI, which is taking away our jobs. These might be also demographic changes. We call it a silver tsunami, which means that people are really aging fast, etc., etc. So what we want you to do, and next slide, Lanko, please, is that we will uh, open the breakout rooms, and each of you will be in a small group. And we have selected 10 different global trends that have some impact on jobs and our lives. And we want you to discuss in your group how these trends will impact the labor market within 10 or 15 years. And also try to think of what kind of new professions and skills will become essential, because these are some challenges that we will have to face, and we will have to respond to them in a way. So the questions are how these trends will impact the labor market, and what new jobs and what new skills will be needed. And each of the group will have one of those big trends, and you will have 10 minutes for the debate in your small group, and then 1 minute to present the results of your debate back when we close the breakout rooms and you go back to the plenary. We want to hear from you very briefly the answers to the questions. I will also post you in the instructions for the activity, so you can just download it and read it for yourself if you forget what you're supposed to do. Just a minute. Okay, so it's called Trends Shaping the Future Job Market, and I'm just posting it to the group chat. So it's there, so you can download it now. And each of the breakout room has a name which is linked to one of those global challenges. So if you don't remember it, and you will join the group automatically. Yeah, so the Zoom will just open the rooms, and you just click on join the group, and it will do automatically. Yeah, so I'm opening the rooms now. You've got 10 minutes, and please decide who's gonna be the presenter for your group. Robocoworkers taky farmy. Na toho nikdo na jedné. Já přeházím. Tak ještě hodně cyber security. Tak teď je tam po dvě. Dva. Circular economy doní, robocoworkers doní. Aging society doní. Tak teďko nevím, ale kolik. Will ich mal machen. Wünsche dir beim nächsten. Tam byly ale dvě, že jo, předtím. No, to se odpojilo. Pardon. A Alice tam taky samé. Já tam jdu za No. Takže vy můžete manuálně udělat. To jsme dělali. Hi, Anna. I think that people are just in the breakout rooms now, and you just because you have joined us a bit later, yeah. So I think it's no point at the moment to join the groups, but they will come back soon, so you can listen to what they're saying and then join the next activity, yeah.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I'm gonna join now. I was just trying to try to type something because the one Lucy, she didn't in my breakout room, she didn't manage to get her microphone working, so she dropped
Okay.
out.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will perhaps drop out now and go for lunch instead. I'm so sorry.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah, but thank you for a very interesting presentation. Super nice to hear.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you very much.
We'll send all the materials then. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope everybody's back from the breakout rooms, and our group has kind of diminished, so we'll see what we can do. I don't think that we managed to cover all the trends, but I will go through the list and then ask by the numbers, and if you can go here in this group to just present us briefly the aims of your discussion. And again, we're aiming on the impact of those megatrends onto the labor market and on the new skills that will be needed, because this is part of the careers education. So first we had the aging societies and silver tsunami, but I think there was nobody in this group. And the second was with the energy transition and moving away from the coal and oil to cleaner energy sources, which is a very up-to-date topic nowadays. So has anybody been in this group who's willing to present us the results of their debate? There's no one here. Okay, so I go to the third group, which is the mental health crisis, that people are struggling with stress, anxiety, and depression. Veronica, sorry.
And
Okay.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So I was in pair with Marketa, who is from organization called Agapo. And that was actually super interesting because she works in kind of garden therapy center. So they use green areas and garden as a therapy for clients. They work mainly with people who have handicaps, and it's like part of sometimes rehabilitation and also supporting their self-confidence, learning new skills, so they can get employed, not necessarily in a green job, but in general preparing them for the labor market. And I think in general, we see it more and more that the impact on the labor market with the kind of mental health crisis is clearly visible. Maybe combined also with this kind of ecological anxiety we were discussing in another meeting, that young people may feel anxious about the future. And so kind of building resilience will be one of the important skills that I think is good to support with young people. And Market also mentioned that they actually do like prevention of burnout as well. So that I think is also kind of based on a model which is in Sweden. Maybe people from Sweden can kind of support it here, that it's already as a part of health insurance process, that once you are in a danger, especially if you are in this kind of helping professions, that you can get kind of support and so I think, yeah, this is a kind of great example even of a green job and in the area of mental health.
Okay, thank you. And if I link this to the presentation of Tristram, I think it covers the first and second dimension, which was the affective and the social and ecological dimension. So it's like building the relationship towards nature, using nature as like a healing environment, and supporting also the social network. Okay, and it's a big problem everywhere at school. Thank you, Veronica. And then we move to the fourth trend, which is the rise of the artificial intelligence and robots that are, well, we can maybe even say taken over human work. So is there anyone who has been in this group? And if there is not, so what are your thoughts about how this trend is gonna influence the world of work? Because we were afraid that the robots will take over our jobs, that all the manual work is being done by automatization. But nowadays it feels that even the AI is taking away like the more qualified jobs. So how do you work with this in your career guidance practice? And how do you work with young people and AI and robots? Any thoughts or ideas or sharing some good examples?
So, hello everybody. Maybe I can add my some outputs of my dissertation that mainly the students of Generation Z today, university students are really aware about the AI, not only about the possibility of replacement by AI, but also that they are learning by with AI. So this was quite interesting, and I hope that I will publish my research in the next few months. So I hope that I can add more to this discussion.
And what would you recommend or suggest that we do with our clients or our students? Like, what is the future in the world of AI?
Yeah, I think really to be active and to learn more how to work with AI. So I think the future is really open to the people who are really willing to learn and are willing to implement AI tools in their daily life, and maybe to be critical to this instrument, but also use it in the good way.
Okay, so it means that we should focus on, let's say, like critical thinking, and not to take everything for granted. And AI means that some jobs will be lost, but other and like new opportunities. Okay, Ida, you have a comment to this?
Yeah. So we also spoke about it in my group. Sorry, I can't find your name now, who I was in group with. But I agree very much with what you just said. But I also think it's an ethical dilemma, because when when guiding students or adults, it's also a question about if they are willing and interesting to learn the AI. Were a profession as a career guidance to the how to say, the organization and the government, we have to, how to say, support the transition to work with AI, even though they like it or not. So it's, how to say, an ethical dilemma, especially if you have adults who don't want to develop or take further education. But I think it's still a must, as how the jobs they are transitioning, and also with the green careers. Just a thought from here.
Okay, thank you, Ida. And you were in which group? What was the number of your group or the title?
Yes. So he just wrote in the chat now. Tierno from Belgium.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thanks. Okay. Yeah, big group with 2 persons. Thank you. Then I want to move on to the functional illiteracy. That's another problem that nowadays lots of people really don't learn how to read and write, and struggle with some like complex texts or some financial documents, or also digital competencies are like new skills which are really highly demanded, but there are groups of people who don't have those skills. So is there anyone who's been in this group so they can share the results with us? Because there's an initiative within the EU, which is, or also some trade unions in let's say in Germany, for example, there's a project to support the basic skills, because though our society becomes really highly qualified and work with complex technology, the gap between like those highly skilled and low skilled is really increasing. So a lot of people really do struggle with these kind of basic skills. And it's also important to develop some tools how to diagnose this and how to work with this. So it is also an issue nowadays, which seems a bit strange, but yeah. So nobody here. Then there's another trend is that there's a lack of drinking water and food shortages, the fresh water. It's becoming an issue nowadays in lots of countries because of the heat. So, is there anyone who's been in this group?
Yeah, we were together to discuss this topic, but mainly I think this problem is nowadays so actual that there are new positions like scientists who are trying to invent the water purification, the new type of food, for example, the artificial meal, not from animals, or they are trying to do some protein-based food or meat on the small animals. So I think the scientists are trying to find out the way how to make this or reduce these problems, mainly in Africa, in Asia, or America. But maybe in Europe we are educate also our people how to not to waste with water or with food. So that's quite actual problem, I think, and there are many people who are trying to find out the solution.
And if we're talking about, like, let's say, future skills or future jobs, so what are the skills that will be needed related to this problem, and what kind of jobs will there emerge to find some solutions to the problems that you've mentioned?
Yeah, if you are hungry and thirsty, then you need to be creative and to find a solution. So I think it's overall. Maybe this could be the skills who can solve this problem. And of course, I mentioned scientists. I mentioned maybe the food industry is really there could be new position about development of new type of food or the new type of purification of water.
Okay, so somebody who's like a scientist with an open creative mind who's trying to find some new solutions, and it will be in the field of agriculture, in water treatment, healthcare maybe, yeah, and also nutrition, you said? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then the group number 9 was cybersecurity risks, which is an impact of living more and more online and being vulnerable to all sorts of attack and blackouts. So anybody been in this group? Okay. Oh, I forgot the climate change. Okay, so sorry for that. It was group number 7, which is the climate change that we spoke about at the very beginning. So could you share
Yes.
your discussion? Sorry.
Yeah. So I shared it in the chat, but I will also explain it a bit more. So for climate change, we figured that if we have natural disasters or any extreme weather, we will probably need more like firefighters and healthcare workers like on the first line to help people in case of emergency. We also want some more trees for more shade and better green planning, also keeping into account heavy rainfall. So that's why we thought of biologists, arborists, gardeners, landscaping architects, and so on. Also agricultural experts to make sure that we can still grow crops to feed ourselves. It could be the same crops as now, or maybe different ones, or in different conditions. Air conditioning installers would also be important on a day-to-day basis, just for comfort. Also engineers and construction workers to make constructions stronger and to rebuild them if they are broken. And also focus on more higher buildings, because when sea levels rise, there will be less surface. Then we also thought of drone producers and drone pilots, or like the people steering the drones, to assist in remote areas, and more people to install and maintain green energy installations.
Wow, congratulations, you've been really productive.
Thank you. But it was also very easy to come up with a lot of things because climate change affects many things.
It does, yeah.
It was, I think, less specific than some of the other topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
you
you.
can see that the climate change is a big career opportunity, that you have lots of new career options and possibility. So it doesn't only have to be negative. Thank you. It was a really nice example. And the last one was the global migration and refugee support. So is there anyone in the group who's been in this, who's got this problem? If not, maybe I will just share an inspiration from my colleague Lenka, who I think it's also an Austrian inspiration. And there's an initiative in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and there's a project for refugee or migrant women who are taught German, and also they are taught green skills. So they just enter the country and they learn a language, and they learn a specific language and specific skills, so they can then apply for green jobs. And we've heard from Matthias and Marcus that there's a big demand in certain fields of green industry. So this is a nice concrete impact answer to all these problems, how we can sort out let's say immigration issue, and also lack of employees in certain parts of the labor market. All right, so thanks a lot. And if you're interested a bit more in this activity, so the trends that we picked up, we didn't do it just by chance, but there are some like regular reports by the World Economic Forum, and you've got a link and a QR code for this. And you can, I think they publish it every half a year or every year, and you can read about the future trends and the future skills. And I think it's really important to open the eyes of your students or teachers about this. And there's the Canadian organization called CEREC, which also publishes reports on the future of the world of work. So you've got there the link as well. And then finally, we're moving to our nice resource pack. This activity has been inspired of an activity we have developed within the project. And you can find the worksheets where you can read the instructions and how to do this activity. And there's a link and a QR code to our resource pack as well. And okay, Lenko, next slide, please. No, just a minute. Just struggling with the technique. Sorry. Okay, so this is the handbook that we have produced, and it's a complementary thing to the worksheets, and it's an explanation or a nice introduction what really green career education is, and we already heard from Tristan about it. And there are some ideas for classroom activities, and again, you have a QR code for this, and then it's paired together with the resource pack, which has ready-made activities for working with students. There are things about, like, we heard that it's important to reflect with students about the values. You've seen some concrete activities presented by Matthias, for example. And these worksheets are available in English, Czech, Slovak, Slovenian, and Swedish. So the Swedish participants are lucky, but I think nowadays it's really easy to translate. So we'd be happy if you use these and give us a feedback how it works in your context. Okay, next slide. Then somebody asked about how do I start if I want to do green career guidance, and I've got nobody around me, so there's a chance to apply for a green training course. It's a 5-day training course that has been developed within another green project called Green Career Guidance, and it's a 5-day course which can be funded by the Erasmus Mobility Funding, and it's gonna take place in Prague in April next year. So you've got enough time to maybe apply for the Erasmus funding, and you can find out more on the following link. Then we also have an electronic library, such as Marcus has presented, and there's a link to this green library. And what we also do is that we post all kinds of webinars and information and interesting things linked to green career guidance and education. So it's for free and it's in English, so it's easily accessible. And then we also have our green website with interesting information, with publications we have produced and courses and articles we're writing, etc. Okay, and the last slide is about some inspiration. I think it's important also to be active on LinkedIn because you can find lots of interesting information on green career guidance and green career education there. So the first link, if you click on the pictures, there's always the link to the concrete LinkedIn profile. So the first one is on our LinkedIn profile. We mainly post things in Czech, but it's easy to translate it nowadays. And then there are 2 LinkedIn groups which are really interesting to mention. The first one is called Guiding Green Careers, and it's a UK-based LinkedIn group by Corinne Grant, which is an assistant professor at Warwick University. And it's a group that gathers people who are really interested in all green kind of stuff, and they often post some invitations to some webinars or other activities. So I really highly recommend this because you can stay updated and become part of the community. And then those who are French speaking, so there's a French-based group which is called Lab Green Guidance, and they've been also really active, but they do things mainly in French. So you've got to improve your language skills. And then I put there my LinkedIn profile because I'm really passionate about green guidance and green education. So I'm trying to post things regularly there, also in English, not only in Czech. Then you've got Tristram Hooley's profile there, who's also rather active and posting lots of interesting invitations and articles. And the last one is my Slovak colleague Tomáš Prlák, who's like the leader for this. He's Slovak, but he lives in France, and he's been very active both in France and in Switzerland. And he's often posting lots of interesting stuff and articles. So he's really also interesting person to follow. And I think that's the end, really. There's also a link to our YouTube channel where you can find some videos of our conferences or seminars and webinars also in English, and a link to our webpage where you can find some materials also linked to green career guidance. So I would like to thank you very much for your active participation. I would like to thank our guests for their really interesting outputs from practice. And I would just support you to join the green guidance community, which is really growing larger and larger. And I think that the online tools like the LinkedIn groups or other activities are really useful, so we can keep in touch and find out about, because it's a really brand new topic and it's developing really fast, and the community is growing. So I think it's really exciting thing to be part of. So I hope this is the first step for you to become part of this community as well. And I hope to meet you again, either online or face to face. So thanks a lot, and we will also send you all the presentations and also the links from the chat, because there were lots of interesting links to different articles and websites. And maybe I'll see you on the NICE conference in Athens or somewhere else. So thanks a lot. Have a nice day and good luck. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.